Sergio Perez climbed into the cockpit of a Formula One car for the first time in nearly a year, and in less than 30 laps, he forced everyone in the paddock to look twice at the timing screens. No tricks, no tire games, no empty fuel loads. Just Checo, a cold track, and a blacked-out Ferrari SF23 that hadn't raced in over 2 seasons. And yet, lap after lap, he closed in on reference times that were supposed to be out of reach for a car this old. Most drivers need weeks to find rhythm after time away. Perez needed minutes. His return wasn't just impressive, it was a warning. Not just to rivals, but to those who thought he was finished. The car? It wasn't even Cadillac's final machine. It was a test mule. A chassis borrowed from Maranello, stripped of identity, with no branding, no colors, no flair. Just carbon and discipline. But when Perez took to the tarmac in Imola, it was clear this wasn't about branding or spectacle. It was about work. Real work. And that's exactly what made the performance so compelling. Because even in a car from the past, Checo drove like a man with something to prove. Not because he needed validation, but because this was personal. This was the beginning of something huge for Cadillac, for Mexico, and for him. Imola was not chosen at random. The track, with its unforgiving layout and unpredictable microclimate, offered a perfect mix of high-speed demands and technical corners. It was excluded from the 2025 calendar, making it the ideal playground for a private operation. But what Cadillac did there was anything but private in consequence. Behind the scenes, General Motors had orchestrated a $100 million operational exercise. Ferrari sent 25 of its own people. Cadillac sent 25 of theirs. Together, they simulated a race weekend with one goal: to teach. But no one expected the student Sergio Perez to become the headline. What stunned engineers was not only Checo's pace, but the consistency with which he delivered it. On hard tires, with an ambient temperature of 11 degrees Celsius and track temp barely reaching 18, he executed every run like it was Q3. His best lap on day 2, 1 minute 17.27, was within 3/10 of Leclerc's FP1 lap in a much newer Ferrari on soft tires. That is not impressive. That is elite territory. And it happened not during a qualifying sim, but amid procedure drills, pit stop rehearsals and communication tests. In other words, he went that fast, when speed was not the objective. The car setup was basic. Tire choice was conservative. Track conditions were not in his favor. Yet the stopwatch does not lie. This was no publicity stunt. This was a driver with over 280 Grand Prix starts, executing laps cleaner than drivers in active race weekends. His muscle memory was intact. His control, his discipline, his brake release points all precise. And the way he communicated with the engineers left many speechless. He didn't ask for more grip. He asked for better radio rhythm, for tighter pit protocols, for cleaner timing on the tire blankets. That's not just a driver returning, that's a leader preparing. And that's why Cadillac chose him. Experience is not measured in years, but in what you do when no one is watching. While most eyes were fixed on 2026 speculation, Checo Perez was silently making history. Not because he broke a record, but because he redefined what preparation looks like. This test was not supposed to make headlines. But when a driver delivers performance beyond what the car or the context suggests, something bigger is happening. This wasn't just a comeback for Checo. This was Cadillac's ignition moment. And it started with a whisper, not a roar. 99 laps on the first day. 91 on the second. That's 190 laps in total, the equivalent of 2 full Grands Prix plus change, driven by a man who hadn't touched a Formula One steering wheel in almost 11 months. At 35 years of age, Checo Perez didn't just survive 2 grueling days at Imola, he dominated them with quiet authority. No driver, fresh out of a sabbatical, is expected to rack up almost 900 kilometers without even a hint of fatigue or drop in consistency. And yet, that is exactly what Perez delivered. No medical flags, no soreness, no need for adjustments. His physical form was immaculate. And even more impressive, the car he was driving wasn't designed for him, it was Ferrari's 2023 machine, optimized for an entirely different generation of driver setups. That makes his consistency even more remarkable. Let's put the numbers into proper context. On day 1, in freezing temperatures and using only hard compound tires, the slowest and most difficult to warm up in Pirelli's range, Perez clocked a best time of 1 minute 17.87. On day 2, he went even faster, 1:17.27. On hard tires. No soft runs, no fuel tricks. Just raw pace. For comparison, Charles Leclerc's best time in free practice 1 at Imola back in 2024, with a brand new SF24 and softs, was 1 minute 16.99. That puts Checo less than 3/10 off in a car 2 years older, under worse conditions. That's not just good. That's elite-level driving. These are numbers that engineers inside the garage know how to interpret. They knew this wasn't supposed to happen, and that's why it matters. But more important than one hot lap was what came between them. Perez demonstrated elite-level tire management by sustaining long stints with lap time degradation well below expected values. On his longest run of the second day, 24 laps straight, he maintained an average of 1 minute 22.4. No erratic drops. No overheating. No graining. That's the kind of performance that tells a team this driver can extract pace and preserve tires at the same time. And that's worth more than any simulated qualifying run. Because in 2026, Cadillac will not be fighting for pole positions. They will be fighting for margins, and Checo proved he understands exactly where to find them. The garage setup was just as revealing. Cadillac's engineers, most of whom had never operated under live race weekend conditions, had been training for weeks in simulators. But no simulation replaces the stress of a live car on track. Ferrari support staff worked shoulder to shoulder with them, 25 from each team, as they practiced pit stop procedures, radio callouts, brake blanket timing, and cooling strategies. Checo played the role of lead driver and silent instructor. He was not giving out lectures. He was showing them with every lap, every radio exchange, every in-lap briefing what Formula One rhythm sounds like. And that's what these numbers actually reflect: a driver leading by example. The car, a stripped-down SF23 in full black carbon, devoid of branding, performed flawlessly. Not a single red flag in 2 days. No mechanical failures. No reliability issues. Ferrari had run a shakedown at Fiorano just 24 hours prior, but still, anything can go wrong when a car runs for close to 1,000 kilometers. That nothing did is a credit to both Ferrari's preparation and Cadillac's execution. It proves that the foundation is stable, that procedures are clear, that logistics are in order, and above all, that Checo Perez still knows how to bring a car home, lap after lap, under pressure and with purpose. Beyond the physical data, there was a tone in the paddock that cannot be quantified. Veteran reporters described the mood as controlled tension, the kind of atmosphere where everyone knows something significant is happening, but no one is sure whether to say it aloud. Perez didn't celebrate his lap times. He didn't smile for cameras. He took notes, stayed in the garage between stints, and debriefed calmly with engineers. That professionalism is often invisible to fans, but inside a team, it is everything. Because when your lead driver sets that tone, the rest follow. What Cadillac got in Imola was more than numbers. They got a standard. The test at Imola was never designed to be about speed. In fact, team principal Graham Lodon made it crystal clear from day one: we're not pushing. We're learning. And that single sentence reveals the genius of what Cadillac is building. This was not a shakedown to chase lap times. It was an engineering simulation designed to stress test the human component: the engineers, the mechanics, the decision makers. Every procedure, from tire blankets to garage comms, was treated as if it were Sunday at Silverstone. And at the center of it all was Sergio Perez, acting as anchor and compass. He didn't just drive. He trained. He transmitted calm through execution. And that is far more valuable than raw speed. Because speed wins laps. But systems win seasons. Imola was chosen with military precision. The circuit was not on the 2025 calendar, which meant no scheduling conflicts, no time pressure, and total access to the paddock. More importantly, its proximity to Maranello allowed Ferrari to provide full logistical support without having to ship parts or personnel halfway across Europe. That logistical edge gave the test a layered complexity: part operational drill, part live engineering rehearsal. The SF23 used by Perez was selected specifically because it was 2 years old, complying with FIA regulations on test cars for new entrants. That car became a teaching tool, not just for track operations, but for data workflows, garage rhythm, and inter-team communication. It was not about performance. It was about discipline. And few drivers understand discipline like Checo. Behind the pit wall, Ferrari embedded its senior technicians into every process. Alessandro Fusaro, the current chief mechanic of Charles Leclerc, directly oversaw garage operations. Xavier Marcos Padros, formerly Leclerc's race engineer, ran day 2 as lead trackside engineer for Cadillac. These weren't second-string personnel. These were frontline experts from Maranello, walking Cadillac's staff through the rituals of Formula One: wheel gun synchronization, sensor calibration, fuel cell cycling. And at the center of that technical orchestra? Checo Perez, absorbing and responding in real time. He didn't just handle the car. He served as a live training module for 24 engineers who had never run a race weekend. The test car was important, but the data they collected from how Perez drove it and how the team supported him was the real prize. Telemetry was critical. The SF-23, although an older generation car, still carried the full suite of sensors used in modern race weekends, collecting terabytes of information per day. Cadillac's data engineers learned not just how to download that information, but how to interpret it under pressure. What does it mean when brake temperatures spike in Sector 2? How do you know if a differential setting is killing traction out of AC minor ollie? These are not things you can read in a manual. You learn them by watching a veteran like Checo drive, and by matching data traces with driver feedback. That calibration between instinct and numbers is what separates elite teams from field fillers. And Cadillac is clearly aiming for the former. Even the tire strategy reflected this learning-first approach. There were no compound experiments. No qualifying simulations. Only hard tires. Why? Because hard tires punish indecision. They require warmth, finesse, and precision to reach their window. They force a driver to understand track evolution, brake balance, and steering input. And that's exactly what Cadillac wanted their engineers to see. They wanted to observe how a top-level driver handles imperfect tools. Because in 2026, their car will not be perfect. Their operations will not be flawless. But they will be trained. And Perez just showed them how excellence looks even when the stopwatch is not the goal.